Okay. So welcome to our session today about the repertory. And I just want to start, are there any questions that anybody has about what was going on with last time, about remedy abbreviations? Or about the way that the repertory's been coming together? You know, we kind of started at the very beginning with what the heck are our symptoms? And then we started, how do we think about symptoms in materia medica? And then how does that help us with cases? And now we're kind of into it. This is where we've been. We created our materia medica lists of symptoms by remedy, but that's not how we use them. We use them by needing to see what's the pattern, this symptom, this symptom, this symptom, that are, you know, across lots of different remedies. And so we wanted to be able to associate that. We can only remember so much. And so we've created a tool that's arranged by symptom instead of remedy. And that's the repertory. So we talked last time about a symptom and how we might have symptoms that we see in the repertory that look like that shouldn't be a symptom, because benevolence looks like a good thing. It looks like something nice and wonderful. I'm a benevolent person. That shouldn't feel symptomatic, but it can be. And so sometimes we actually have to look at what does that rubric mean that might be different than our initial face value idea. So this symptom is titled Mind Benevolence, and it has 22 remedies in it. Each remedy is listed along with a little footnote that says, where did we find that? Where's the materia medica reference that is based on? And you'll notice that they're arranged in alphabetical order. We start with the A's and we end up here with sulfur. And then we talked about how there were lots of other people who were making different arrangements, different abbreviations, and that are Latin and Greek words that are inheritance for medicine, physiology, pathology, botany, chemistry, have these ridiculous long names that we have to figure out how to pronounce, and that different practitioners came up with totally different abbreviations for those. And so Kent came up with abbreviations that he thought were reasonable, and those are in the front of the repertory. We have them right there where we can be looking at them. And as we look at those, we learn to memorize them, and we start to think, oh, AGAR, that's agaricus. AM-M, that's ammonium muriaticum. And we want to read over that list and just become familiar. So that was your challenge from last time, to read pages of the list, or maybe photocopy a little bit of it and stick it up on your bathroom mirror, and while you're standing there brushing your teeth, you can look over those things. You know, you're not doing anything else while you're brushing your teeth, so you might as well enjoy homeopathy, right? Okay. So they're arranged in alphabetical order, all these remedy names within a symptom. The symptoms are all arranged in alphabetical order, except when they're not. And Kent had to come up with some way of saying, how do I structure these so that if I want to look at something about a cough, I don't have to start with A and work my way through to Z to find all the cough things. I kind of want all the cough stuff together. I kind of want all the ouchy knee things together. I kind of want things that have to do with the overall person, not a specific part. We're going to lump all those together. And so we were working with all of these different things. So today, we're going to talk about what Kent decided to do with that. Kent developed an arrangement that this was pretty much part of his brilliance, and all of the other repertories are arranged in this way. Everybody kind of took this on from Dr. Kent. And so all of the newer repertories, the complete, the synthesis, are arranged in this way. The one exception to this is the work that Robin Murphy did, where he created an alphabetical repertory that didn't have a lot of Kent structure in it. Did any of you guys grow up as homeopaths using that? Did you, Marjorie? And do you still use it? Kristen, sometimes? Yeah, there are some things where I remember Jeremy Shear talking about it because I was in school when that first came out. And there was some difficult politics behind that whole book, which was one of the reasons why I chose not to use it. But, you know, I remember Jeremy Shear in one of our classes saying, you know, there's some usefulness just in having all the ankle stuff together with the ankle. So let's look through these sections. The first thing I want you to see is that they have different qualities to them. There's generals, things that have to do with the whole person. A general is a different kind of symptom than a particular. And there's a lot in homeopathy where we're asking, what's a general, what's a particular? A particular in general is something that you can point to. A general is something that involves the entire person. So you can point to somebody's elbow pain, but you can't point to their sleep. You can point to their sinuses, but you can't point to their appetite. So generals are things that have to do with the overall person, things like body heat. But you might have chill in your neck that you can point to. So there's places where it gets a little bit unsure. All right, so the sections that are generals are the mind section that has to do with ideation and emotion and experience of the world. And of non-worldly things actually also. The vertigo section has to do with everything around balance and experience of balance falling, you know, because that happens with the whole person. And then sleep and body temperature, the section on chill and the section on fever. And then the very last section is sort of like the kitchen sink. That's everything that Kent didn't know where else to put it. It went in generalities. All right, so the next column here that we're looking at has to do with anatomy. And then after that, we've got functions. Things are things that are related to that anatomical part. And then with some of them, we also have discharges. So we start out with head, and then the next section after head is eye. And you sort of wonder about that because the eye is in the head. But head has to do with things that are overall about the entire head or some area of the head. The occiput, which is in the back, the vertex, which is on the top, the forehead, the crown. In one of our recent mentoring sessions, we had a guy who had an experience of a headache on the crown, you know, where a cap would go. So we have head. And at Kent's time, everything about the head was in there. Now, in later repertories, the section of pain in the head was broken out into a completely different section. So if you're using a later repertory, there'll be head and head pain, not just head, with the head pain stuff inside. Okay? The next section is eye. And after that, we've got the functional section of vision. The next section is ear. And after that, we've got the functional section of hearing. And the next section is nose. So after that, we should have the functional section of smell, right? How many of you have thought that? But Kent didn't do that. Evidently, smell was not as big a thing in Mr. Kent's world, Dr. Kent's world, as hearing was. And so we just stick with smell in the nose section. And then the next section is face. Now we've just been dealing with the narrower locations of the head. The eye, the ear, the nose, the face. And then we go into mouth. And you would think that just like there was eye and vision and ear and hearing, there also might be taste. What do you think? but Dr. Kent put that right in there with mouth. And then there's the section for teeth, which are part of the mouth, but Kent broke them out into their own section. And we're sort of moving our way down. We had the head, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and now we get to throat. And so Dr. Kent's kind of starting a top-down, you know, as if you were assessing a client top-down. Might be what you were looking through. There's two sections for the throat. There's what goes on inside the throat and what goes on outside the throat. So there's throat and external throat. So if you wanted to see something like a modeling of the skin on the throat, you'd have to look in the external section. But if you wanted to see something like red patchiness in the pharynx in the back of the mouth, you'd have to look in the internal section, even though those are kind of the same symptoms. Okay? Have you guys used the external section of throat? It tends to be one that we don't get into very much. Have you had any reason why you had to go look at that? One of the things that, probably one of the most common reasons why I go in there is people who have food allergies, particularly people who have thyroid issues and shellfish allergies tend to get these symptoms that we can see on the external neck. Red blotchy hives here is one of the very, very first reactions for shellfish allergies. So that might take you in there if you have a client that's got that going on. Okay, so we've got throat. Now keep in mind that your throat extends from the back of your mouth down here to the esophagus, and that goes into the stomach. And there's the next section that Dr. Kent has. So we're still just working our way down the body, mouth, throat, stomach, into the abdomen, and then the rectum. So Dr. Kent is kind of following along the GI tract. And after rectum, I want you to look far over to the right. Do you see to the right of rectum out in discharges? There's the chapter on stool. How many of you went, ew, when you first looked through that chapter? Everything you could never discuss at the dinner table is in that chapter. And everything that our clients probably don't want to discuss with us. And actually maybe a few things that we don't even actually want to hear from them. Man, it's amazing the biochemistry factory that a body is. And so if you can read that section with a little bit of sense of wonder of physiology, it will help the ew factor. Okay? The next section after that is urinary organs, which actually has some subsections in it that we'll go through. And then genitalia and female genitalia. This provoked massive discussion in our class where people were in umbrage that genitalia was somehow the real genitalia and female was a subset. And there was a lot of ranting about that. So in later repertories, it's male genitalia and female genitalia. And then the next section is larynx and trachea. And then we get into the function of the chest, respiration and cough. And after cough, there's all that stuff you're coughing up, which Dr. Kent filed under a section called expectoration. Oh, question from Joy. Where is circulation? I couldn't find hypertension easily in the complete. Yeah, you're going to find it in generalities. There are specific things that can tell you someone is hypertensive, like throbbing in the jugular vein. And you're going to see that in external throat. Or a throbbing in the ear that someone is hearing when they can hear their pulse in their ear. And you're going to get that in the ear section. And so we see hints of it in various places, but in general, we're going to find out about that in the generalities section because it affects the entire person. There's also some about it in the chest section because that's where all the cardiac stuff is. And some people experience their high blood pressure as a pressure or a throbbing in their chest. So you can find little sprinkles of it in a lot of different places. Okay, and then there's the back section. Now, we have this section for external throat. What about the back of your neck? Is that in external throat? It's the back of your throat. Where do we find the back of the neck? Anybody know where that lives? Yes, back with the location of cervical. This is called the cervical spine, from the base of your head to the top of your torso. So that's where you're finding it in there. The next section is extremities. And in later repertories, the pain part of extremities has been broken out into its own section. But in Kent's repertory, it's all folded in together. And then we go back over to our generals, sleep, chill, and fever. And then Kent wraps the whole thing up with skin. And then the discharge of the skin is perspiration. And we go into generalities. So these are the 31 sections. Now, one of the challenges that I want to give you this week is for you to just be doodling. Just get a little pen and a piece of paper and just write down how many sections can you remember. Don't look. Just write down, okay, there's mind, head, eye, ear, hearing, nose. Was there a smell section? Was there not a smell section? You know, just write down what you can remember. And if you can make up this chart where you do the column of generals, what are the generals? What are the anatomy sections? What are the discharges? What are the functions? See what you can remember and just let yourself doodle this when you've got a few minutes. So the mind section, let's just talk a little bit about what's in some of these. The mind section is everything that relates to the function of the mind. So whether your mind is clear or dull, and your emotions and behaviors, things like gestures, which are thought to come from the function of the mind, and memory are all in here. Now, speech is included in the mind section to the extent that it has to do with mental function, like if somebody talks really fast. But speech is also included, say, in the mouth section, where maybe somebody's got a swollen tongue and because of their tongue. So there's a lot of overlap where things can show up in one place and they can also show up in another place. The next section, vertigo, has everything to do with balance. Now, a lot of balance things have to do with the inner ear, right? So there's an overlap between what's going on in the inner ear and what's happening here in this section. There's references to vertigo or dizziness that are scattered all through the repertory. But you would want to go to the vertigo section when it was a big prominent feature of the case. And so anything that has to do with dizziness or disorientation can be here. Now, along with a lot of concomitants like, what are the circumstances of vertigo? When I stand up, when I sit down, when I lean over and tie my shoes, when I smell pumpkins. Actually, I don't think that one's in there, but it probably should be. And along with these concomitants, there are also specific actions that the person who has vertigo is taking, like they're staggering, or they're turning, or they feel like they're going to fall to the left. All those are really useful individualizations. So anything that has to do with falling, floating, any sort of spatial perception, those are all going to be there in vertigo. Now, sometimes you might be a little confused. A sensation of floating that affects the whole person, you would think that you should find that in generals, right? You got to look, anything that has to do with orientation, physical orientation, is going to be in the vertigo section. Okay, and then we have the head section that covers all this stuff related to the head as a whole, but not the specific smaller structures like the eyes or the nose or the mouth or the ears. And the pain section is very big. And it gives you a context for how detailed the experiences that come out of the provings are. There are so many different ways of having head pain. It's so uncomfortable. Lancinating, drawing, tearing, pressing, boring, crushing, bursting, a lot of different kinds of discomfort. And there are also all the different factors that bring on head pain, like head pain from turning the head pain from noise, head pain from chewing, head pain from all kinds of things. Now we have to ask ourselves, on the top of the head is the scalp. Well, scalp is skin. So if you have an eruption on your scalp and that's on the skin, is it going to show up in the skin section or on the head section? My general idea is that if it's only on the head, then I'm going to find it in the head section. If it's on the head and the left elbow and the knee, then I'm going to look in the generals section because it's affecting the person generally. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? And then we've got the eye section, which covers the eyeball and the eyelids, but not the eyebrows. The eyebrows are actually part of the forehead, which is in the head section. And some of them are or the face section. Some of them are overlapping, like swelling under the eyes is in the face section and the eye section. And the remedies in there are a little bit different. It makes me think I'd love to go to lunch with Dr. Kent. Maybe we can exhume him and dig him up and revitalize him and have lunch with him and ask him, why the heck are these different remedies? They look like the same thing. Hi, Marie. Is there a place to get the Repertory Tutorial Workbook? Absolutely. You can download the whole ebook. It is in the class RP10 in your case dashboard. When you go to your training dashboard and click on courses, you can just scroll down. Okay? In the public forum, it's in the event. All right. So the eye section is going to have a lot of overlap with the face. And also when somebody has pain behind their eyes, it's going to overlap with the head pain section. So you're going to see a lot of similarities. All right. And then there's vision. These are all the disruptions of visual function, like blindness and dim vision. And when you look at the vision section, this is one of the most individualizing aspects of the client's case, because the eyes are biologically hugely important in human function. The eyes and perception of light run the endocrine system. The eyes are actually incredibly nutrient heavy in the body. They use almost as much oxygen as the heart, even though they're much smaller. So when people have visual disturbances, like seeing something above each other, I'm seeing double visions like this versus double visions like this. I'm seeing spots on the outer half. These are all quite important. So I really want to encourage you to stroll through the vision section and get familiar with that. The next section is ear, which covers, we've got a few things happening with the ear. There's the part of it that's on the outside, on the head, And then there's the inner ear, the ear canal, and the structures of the inner ear. And then there's the section on hearing. Now, hearing relates to noises heard within the ear. As opposed to noises that originate outside the ear. Okay? Hearing is stuff outside the ear. In the ear, when you have things that are associated with inner ear, as for example, tinnitus, buzzing, or gurgling because somebody had a cold and their eustachian tubes are all gunky. All those things are going to be in the ear section. If it has to do with the inner ear, it's in ear. If it has to do with the outer ear and something outside, that's going to be in the hearing section. Okay? Do you guys have any questions about any of this? About the structure and the arrangement? You know, if you look, say, are any of you using Benninghausen's repertory? He's got quite a different structure. Or any of you using the little repertory that Boricki has in the back of his Materia Medica? He's got some different structure in there also. And Kent collected all that stuff and put it in here. Okay, so this is a good stopping point for today. Next week, we're going to go forward with nose, and we're going to talk more about what's in all those sections and how to find them. So your challenge for this week is to doodle, to write down the names of the sections. I want to continue to encourage you to look at the list of remedies and abbreviations. Even people who have been practicing for a long time have abbreviations that they don't recognize. There's still abbreviations that I don't recognize. So this is a reminder to me too, to go back and read over those lists, you know, to maybe photocopy a little bit of that out and stick it on my bathroom mirror. Or I like to stick those things on the front door of my kitchen cabinet for a week, so that while I'm standing there stirring something or I'm washing dishes, I can see those and I can read through them. Okay? So we'll talk again next week, and I'll look forward to following up with you guys then. Let me know if you have questions about any of this stuff. You can always post something in the forum about it, okay? All right, guys, take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye.